Well, yes, we're still focusing on the well, not reappointment now, but the appointment of ministers into the president's cabinet. Yes, you have been following the appointment, the screening, the eventual swearing in, and of course, assignment of portfolios, which was the last thing done by the president. We have with us this morning Honorable Farouk Adamu, who is an APC stakeholder, a stakeholder in the All Progressives Congress, a former minority leader of the House of Representatives. Welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Good morning.
And we also have with us Kasim Afegbua, who is a spokesperson of the People's Democratic Party presidential campaign. Welcome also to Sunrise Daily.
It's a pleasure.
Well, you have also followed the event. Let us start from this. Any surprises for you from the constitution of the president's cabinet? Your party is saying that, you know, there is nothing new here. They have, well, let's say this is extremely common. Some, you know, I can't quite remember the phrase now. I will search it out. But they don't seem to be very impressed by what the president has done.
Well, not impressed to the extent that we waited this long to see familiar faces, familiar names, and we're now beginning to wonder whether this were the same persons that we waited for 3 months before they now got sworn in yesterday, and 6 months after elections. If we were thinking that for a president that should hit the ground running, given the kind of situation we find ourselves in the country, that he will have, you know, on May 29, will have announced his cabinet, and a week later, then get them sworn swing into action.
By familiar faces, are you referring to those who returned or those who were just newly
both
appointed?
Those who return, both those you consider as new, they are not new to us. And of course, the list is, you know, the other time I appeared on your program here, I told you that the list is tainted by persons who have cases to answer with the EFCC. You are clearing them, you are telling me you have screened them, you have gone through security screening and all of that, and they are not qualified to preside over our collective patrimony. So for us, it baffles our, you know, imagination.
Oh, some people have said, are we increasing the size of the cabinet? Aren't we also increasing the cost of governance? You heard Dr. Joe Abba there responding to that. But how do you respond to those people in addition to whatever he said?
Well, I don't think there's anything like, expanding the cost of governance, because 43 ministries or ministers, I don't think it's too much for a country of about 200 million people. Also, you know, we're in a democracy. Back in the days of Obasanjo and also Jonathan, appointed the same kind of ministers, 42, 43, you know, because of the political pressure. The people in the country, in the parties also complain that, look, you need to recognize the zones as well. And when you say a minister takes about 800,000 salary in a month. And if by doing that, so many people have complained of, like, Ministry of Works, Power and something, when Fashola was the minister of about 3 ministries.
Power, Works and Housing. Yeah.
Exactly. Now it's divided into 2. So, which means the workload is going to be less. And also novelty in creating new ministries also, I mean, to handle the huge humanitarian crisis we have in this country. So, you know, there are exigencies that you have to look into and take care of the situation, and that's exactly what has happened.
So while workload was being decreased in one ministry, Power, Works and Housing, for instance, which you mentioned, has now been unbundled to Power, separate, and then Works and Housing. Now, you now have another ministry, Finance, Budget and Planning, which some people say it might become a little unwieldy. Some professionals point to the fact that we signed up to a treaty that doesn't even let us have that kind of ministry, where finance, budget and planning are housed under one ministry. What is your reaction to that?
Well, you know, this thing is subjective, because we tried it before, having Ministry of Planning different from Ministry of Finance. And I'm sure the people that came about putting them together know what they're doing to ensure that, look, they come under one place. So, because I remember very well when the ministries were divided into two, there were always friction between the budget, the planning, and the ministry, where there are some figures that do not agree. But now coming under one place, one minister, one department, I think it will harmonize everything.
What do you also say to those who say women, first and foremost, did not quite get a fair share? I mean, out of the 7 women appointed, only 2, it would seem, are substantive ministers, even though amongst the ministers, they argue that there is no such thing as a junior minister. They believe that the minister and minister of state are all ministers. I don't know.
But it is true. But
whether that has been clarified, because some people believe that there is a substantive minister and there is a minister of state, and the substantive minister is the one who takes leadership. But while that controversy is addressed, out of all the 7 women who were appointed, only 2 got substantive posts. The Minister of Women Affairs and I think the Minister of Finance, Budget and Planning. The rest of the women who were appointed only got ministers of state. Why is that?
The constitution of this country does not recognize anything like less minister or more minister or better minister or higher minister. It's based on state representation. So let's take it from there, which means the government of Nigeria from inception never contravened the constitution. So it's you and I who think Minister of State is a junior minister. So they are substantive ministers.
Do we really think?
Well. Yeah, of course we think.
But that doesn't answer the question of women.
Well, okay. I also agree that probably there should be more women in the cabinet, but not that there are less ministers than other ministers. Yeah, maybe we should have 10 instead of 7. That's my opinion.
Do you see trouble brewing as a result of that?
What kind of trouble?
Between ministers and their ministers of state.
You see, whether anyone likes it or not, when you are a minister of state, you are a junior minister. There are no hard and fast rules about it, and it's not peculiar to Nigeria. The point is, in the discharge of your responsibility as minister, substantive minister, and the minister of state, there has to be harmony, and there has to be job description to the extent that there won't be conflict of interest. When you see a minister, his minister of state, or her minister of state working in harmony, it means that there is an understanding. There is a perfect working relationship. But where that does not exist, you always have a lot of competition, a lot of contestation, and what have you. And so for me, it is not so much about the portfolios you are given. That's not my business, whether you are given any portfolio. It is the value and the quality you bring to the table that will impart on the lives of Nigerians, as well as in the discharge of your responsibilities. But you know, in this part of the world, we worship precedent. We don't worship our constitution. I would prefer a scenario, a situation where we worship the constitution as opposed to the president of the country. Because people want to see the body language of the president to see, oh, I don't want to hurt the president because he has the power to hire and fire and all of that. But if you defer to the constitution and you defend that constitution in your responsibility, in the discharge of your duties, then you have some semblance of sanity in the way and manner you engage with the process. With
the stance of the president in his first term, the fact that he hardly fired any ministers, the fact that there were infractions reported on the part of some ministers and he barely did anything, do you think that he has sent the body language that I'm giving you the free hand, do and please Nigerians as you may with the powers that have been given to the ministers?
That would be an erosion of the responsibility of a leader, because whether you like it or not, if you don't fire, it means that you are in agreement with all that they do. If it takes you time to take a decision, it also means that something is wrong or something is faulty with your leadership style. You see, leadership must have a hands-on approach to issues. Where you step back and you watch in a delegated manner and function, then you are allowing people to take decisions on their own whims, knowing full well that you are not going to take action. If they know that the leader of the country has the time and energy to look into what they do and all of that and take decisions at the appropriate time, they will sit up. But in this case, just like I said, the first 4 years were a colossal failure, whether anyone likes it or not, on all the agenda they set out to achieve. the APC, all the items in the manifesto, how much of it was achieved. If you put them in percentage, you can strike 40%.
Some people will talk about appropriate timing as something that is extremely subjective. I mean, when you come from a culture where, you know, ministers are looking to the body language of the president to one where it would seem that they have been given a free hand, hasn't that message been sufficiently passed that, you know, if a minister succeeds or fails, it is of his or her own doing?
How much time did it take to relieve the former SGF his responsibility, even when it was, you know, established that he has been found wanting in office? How much time did it take? You see, you don't beggar the issue when it has to do with national interest. What should drive you? What should motivate you? It's about the country. You see, if you're a minister and you watch the body language of the president, you do so because you feel that you need to please the president. I've had occasions where I appeared on programs, and when I talk about the president, some people say, don't talk to the president like that. He's our president and all that. For God's sake, I don't give a damn who is the president. I give a damn about what he does to impart on the well-being of Nigerians, and myself inclusive, and the Constitution, which is the ground norm of all democratic engagement. So to that extent, my loyalty is not to the president. My loyalty is to the Constitution of the country, which provides a level playing field for everybody, irrespective of your status. But in this climate, we don't do that.
Are you saying that there mustn't be some loyalty to the president who appointed you to office?
When you are swearing to an oath of office, you are not swearing to the president. You are swearing to the Constitution of Nigeria, that in all cases, at all times, you are going to do this, you are going to do that. You are not going to allow your self-interest to conflict with national interest. You are going to, you know, that is the oath of office.
Now, the point is, do they have to be mutually exclusive? The fact that you are swearing an oath, you know, on the Constitution, and you also have some loyalty to the president because he also has taken that oath. Are they mutually exclusive?
What if you have a scenario where the president does not follow the Constitution?
Have we had such a scenario?
We've had what's it called, court judgment or court verdict or granting bail to some persons, and the Attorney General of the country is telling us that national interest prevails over court verdicts. Who defines the national interest? So these are issues. They are issues of conflict. These are issues of contradiction. If you take your Constitution as your sole, you know, operative document, the ground norm, then both the president and everybody should subscribe to it. You do not take a decision because you feel you are Attorney General of the Federation, because the president said, no, keep that person there, it's national interest and all of that. Who defines the national interest? And who says that the national interest will override the Constitution or even the verdict of the law court? Because under a democracy, there are three arms of government: the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. And they are there, the judiciary is there to interpret the laws enshrined in the Constitution. And in interpreting them through the law courts with competent jurisdiction, when decisions are taken or verdicts are given or judgments are arrived at, you have to obey them. Whether you are the president of the country or not, you must obey those provisions.
Let me come to Honorable Farouk Adamu. You have heard him and talk about the leadership style of the president. He seems to have some of the longest-serving ministers and some of the longest-serving heads of agencies. Some people say it could be good. Some people say, depending on how it is, especially when objections are raised, it could be bad. How do you respond to that?
You see, I can understand from the point of my friend. He's in the opposition party, and so sometimes people in the opposition rant for the sake of ranting. And you said it, you told him that some of these things are subjective. Now, the people of this country have passed a judgment whether the 4 years of Buhari was a failure. If it were a failure, he wouldn't have been voted again. So whatever anybody will say from the opposition party, I mean, that's the beauty of democracy. You have the right to say whatever you want in a nice way or not in a nice way, but the people will decide. So the people of this country have decided the leadership style of Buhari is what the people want as of today. And whether he takes time to decide on things, that is also very, very subjective. You know, so all these things, they are on the pages of newspapers. social media that X person should be sacked. In this country, you remember there's a serving senator who won an election while he was in detention. In this country, presumption of innocence. So, look, why do you say that now in this time, things are not done rightly, or some people are tainted, just like what my friend is saying, and so on? Presumption of innocence is still there in this country, that you cannot pass a judgment on anybody because he's been accused of corruption.
I'm going to give you 2 examples. There was a minister of finance, a former minister of finance, who resigned her post when it was found that she actually did not have a valid NYC certificate. Now, she resigned after a lot of noise was made. She said she was going to spare the government the embarrassment. However, another minister, a former minister as well, was also found not to have served, which is one of the criteria to be appointed as a minister. There was total silence on the part of the president on that sort of matter, and the minister served till his tenure, got to an end. The same thing for another minister, the Minister of Sports, who, towards the end of his tenure, a controversy broke out over the IAAF paying money to Nigeria and asking them to refund it. I think they said they had paid the money by accident. And the words that came out of the minister's mouth did not quite seem like words that should come out of a minister's mouth. I mean, it left a lot to be desired on the part of everybody who listened to how that matter panned out. Do you think that the president was decisive in his action, especially when it came to ministers and, their certificates and even things that had to do with money, especially with an anti-corruption agenda at the forefront?
Yeah, well, when you talk about like Kemi, when she resigned, it was due to the pressure of the public. Yes, I agree with you. But then she resigned. The other minister that did not resign, probably nobody had gone to court to contest that. You just don't accuse people for accusing sake.
To contest that, he accepted that he did not serve. There was evidence, and he did say that he did not serve. He admitted that he did not serve, but claimed that because he had served in other capacities, that was as good as his NYC.
Exactly, and nobody else went to court to contest that.
Do people have to go to court to contest that?
Absolutely. Then, I mean, are we in a banana republic? So if somebody accuses me of this, whether it is true or not, action should be taken? Come on.
How seriously should people then take the president every time that NYC, core members go to visit him in Daura and he says, oh, this core is very close to my heart?
Of course.
How seriously should they take him when serving ministers did not take the bother to serve?
Yeah, but just like I told you, the former minister who said exactly that, look, I did something else in place of that. If somebody feels seriously about that, should also go to court to declare whether that assertion was right or wrong.
That is not for the president to question.
No, absolutely.
And you don't think it rubs off wrongly on the manner of leadership of the president?
It's also a matter of perception. I told you all these things that you're saying. The people of this country have decided that President Buhari is the right person to be president as of today. So that's it.
Okay, now some people will say that they did not make the choice without their reservations. But,
but they have done it. They have. Yeah, they have.
So here we are now. We're looking at the ministerial list. I don't know if you want to respond to that quickly, but I would like to take you to the ministerial list and see whether you have, well, in the opinion of Nigerians, square pegs and square holes, or round pegs and round holes.
No, my initial take is just that the APC is living in self-denial. You've very, very, very serious issues here. Issues of accountability, issues of character, issues of integrity. You see, on the one hand, they will tell you that the president is a man of integrity. On the other hand, when issues that had to rub off on that come to the front burner, they want to apply self-denial as a way to defend themselves. Kemi Adeosun passed through security screening. Every ministerial nominee must pass through security screening. Then you now begin to wonder, what manner of security screening, aside from her resigning, did head roll amongst those who screened her at the security level to have given her a clean bill of health? Someone who did not, or is it that the security that screen her didn't know that that certificate was an Oluwole certificate, a scammed certificate, so to speak. Then you have another minister, former minister now, communications, Adamu Ashitu, who also admittedly said that he didn't serve, but he served in another capacity. Is that the rule? Is that the requirement when you are within age to have served your country for 1 year, compulsory? Is that not the law? I haven't found out what decision did the president take. I'm saying that you do not approach some issues of anti-corruption in half measures. You are either for anti-corruption or you are just pretending about it. So it's a huge responsibility on the part of those who are championing anti-corruption to apply the rules without favoritism, selective amnesia, and all manners of considerations.
Point made. We're running out of time. I want you to quickly look at some ministers whom you think have been appointed into the right positions, or those whom you think will stick out like a sore thumb.
You see, our charge on the APC is for them to sit down and govern. They haven't been governing. That's to the best of my knowledge. No matter the number of ministers you bring, no matter the character of the minister, no matter their competencies, no matter their incompetencies, what you want to see is results on the table. And secondly...
You think they have been arranged in a way that results will show? Let me quickly bring you to... Let me be more specific. For instance, people had been clamoring that, oh, the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing is too big. We should, should be broken down. Now that has been done, are you more optimistic?
It's been broken down. You should have
that we will have results.
You should have a minister for works. Nigeria is decayed presently, infrastructural-wise. You have a ministry of works on its own. You should have a ministry of housing. You see, how much of impact did you see in the last 4 years in this sector? Travel along across Nigeria.
So it's not broken down enough. That's your take?
It's not broken down enough.
Okay, where do you have hope that something significant might happen with the appointment of a minister there?
I'm not seeing anything significant. Let me use your words. Significant happening in the next 4 years. I'm not seeing that, and that's why I'm very hopeful that our case is into the tribunal. We are hopeful that we'll have opportunity to get some justice and getting that so that there can be a new thinking, a new dimension to engaging national issues.
Okay.
Because if you look at what obtains now,
I have to go now. Sorry, Mr. Afegbua. Let me quickly take the closing remarks of Honorable Farouk Adamu. Who are the people here who you will ask Nigerians to be watching out for amongst the 43 from your own expectation?
All of them. Watch over all of them. All of them are competent. All of them have passed through the screening that he said, and they are all good, they are Nigerians, and they will do it well. So let them wait and win election.
What do you say to those who are raising concerns about the fact that the president continues to retain the portfolio of the Minister of Petroleum?
Yeah, what do you mean? I mean, that's what he, as the president of this country, wanted. So if anybody has objection, you see, look, you still have to come back to the people. If the people of this country have decided to vote for this same person, we still go and come back that he was the Minister of Petroleum 4 years ago, and now he decided to retain the ministry. So I think that's okay. That's all right. Absolutely.
So you're optimistic that in every part, you're not afraid, because some people are saying that, for instance, putting Godswill Akpabio and, Festus Keyamo together in one ministry might be a little problematic.
You see, in politics, whatever you do, somebody else will say something, negative or positive. So that's okay. We used this ranting. Look, we were in opposition for donkey years.
Is everything a rant?
Most of things coming out from opposition.
How do you differentiate between genuine criticism and a rant? If you target all a rant?
Yes, how we do that is when people speak genuinely, not out of anger. That's how we determine.
There is no anger. A man like Festus Keyamo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, will be rusting away in Minister of State Niger Delta. He should better be a Minister of State in Justice.
The PDP cannot decide for us.
No, I'm not deciding. No, we are Nigerians. So we are Nigerians. It's not about you.
Okay, no.
We are Nigerians.
Yes. Even
your decisions affect everybody.
Well,
the president is not president of APC.
Until you win election.
The president is not president of APC members. He's president of the country.
That is true.
So I have a right to interrogate.
Gentlemen,
yes, you do, but you don't have the right because
we're totally out of time now. We're totally out of time now. We have to go. Okay. Gentlemen, I have to thank both of you for coming on Sunrise Daily. Honorable Farouk Adamu is an a stakeholder in the All Progressives Congress, a former minority leader in the House of Representatives. And we also had with us Kazeem Afegbua, who is a spokesperson of the PDP Presidential Campaign Council. Gentlemen, thank you once again for coming on Sunrise Daily.
It's a pleasure.